Hello, my name is Chad Valentine. I'd like to take a moment to talk with you about our research project that we've put together, talk with you about our study and how we went about it. Um, the title of our research study was the effects of static stretching in college athletics, a comparison between static stretching and dynamic stretching. Some keywords that we used throughout the search were college athletics, college athletes, increased performance, as well as the effectiveness of static stretching, dynamic stretching, dynamic flexibility, also muscle performance. And to show our abstract, the title once again is the effects of static stretching in college athletics. Statement of a problem, we were able to, our plan was we were aiming to trying to show the effectiveness of the static stretching and whether or not it had a positive impact at all on the training during the pre-warm-up phase each day. Also, we looked to show that by implementing tests every fourth week on two training groups and having a control group that would remain the same throughout the study. Our methods was 24 weeks of training. We did test every fourth week. 3 groups of 8 college athletes in the sport of track and field made up our study. All of the groups consisted of female athletes from ages of range of 18 to 22 years old, and they were of similar body size, stature, as well as athletic ability. Independent variables were Group A and Group B. Group A in the first 12 weeks took on the static stretch, and in the second 12 weeks took on the dynamic stretch. Group B took on dynamic in the first 12 weeks and took on the static stretch in the back half of the training. Our dependent variable was the effectiveness of the training and of the stretching throughout the duration of the study. Our hypothesis was that we did believe that the dynamic stretching would have more of a positive benefit on the training versus the static stretch. Our assumption was that Group A and Group B would see more of an improvement when they took on the element of the dynamic stretching versus when they held the static stretch element of the study during their respective 12-week cycles. The limitations on the study, we did feel that even though we had a pretty short age range, that the ages not being exactly the same, body weight and size not being exactly the same, could have an effect on that, so we felt that was a limitation. Also, another limitation we felt that was very important to mention was the weather changes. All of our testing was done outside, so in the elements. So any changes, the study was done from beginning of September through, and the 24 weeks ran through mid-December. So with that being the case, we went from the back end of summer season through the fall and into the first part of winter. And with that being the deal, a lot of things could change for every fourth week when we were doing testing. More wind versus less wind, as well as a nice sunny warm day versus a cold cloudy day could definitely alter training. And we felt that was a huge limitation on our study and not being able to get the exact results we wanted. And that thought process was that they would be a little bit skewed on account of that. To kind of introduce our study, static stretching is something that's been used for years and years. It's been the form of stretch during warm-up or prior to warm-up for training in clinical and health and fitness settings, as well as high school and college athletics for a number of decades now. However, we did feel that over the last few years, dynamic stretching has become more popular. Dynamic flexibility, things such as high knees and A skips and B skips, butt kicks and those sort of things have become the norm, especially in college athletics, and with our track and field, it's something that we use a lot. We felt that was important. The dynamic stretching is a lot quicker movements versus the static stretching, and it's becoming more and more popular form of the stretching. And we do feel that and it's been the thought process has been that it's more effective than static stretching. In reviewing our literature, we scanned and went over multiple articles and studies, well over 10. We were able to find a lot of studies that focused in on some of our keywords that involved muscle performance and the effectiveness of muscle performance when static stretching or dynamic stretching was used. There also were a number of studies that involved college athletics and different in different sports throughout the articles. Our hypothesis, once again, it was we did feel that dynamic stretching would take on more of a positive impact on performance than static stretching, and we thought it would outweigh that of static stretching on performance. And in static stretching, we even kind of thought that it may have play a negative effect, have a negative effect on the training overall. We did use 24 weeks of training. We tested every fourth week, in our methods part of our study. Every fourth week for 24 weeks. What we done was we tested in the standing long jump, overhead back shot throw, underhand forward shot throw, 30-meter fly, and the vertical jump. We did use Group A as our static group, and Group B as our dynamic group in 1 through 12. And on weeks 13 through 24, we actually switched and manipulated the groups into Group A as a dynamic, Group B as static. The control group C stayed the same throughout the study. Once again, our areas that once we decided on our areas, we began to figure out a way to score those results each fourth week of the training. We actually went ahead and we measured our throws, the overhead throw and underhead throw with metric ruler, and also our standing long jump that way as well. Our vertical jump was measured in inches, and the 30-meter fly was measured with a stopwatch. For every half inch, what we've done for every half inch in the vertical jump, and for every half meter in the standing throws, as well as the standing long jump, and for every half second faster in the 30-meter fly, we actually gave every result a numerical number. In the pre-test, the week prior to the beginning of training, when we tested, once we got everybody's results individually, we scored everybody a 5 for where they were, and called that the mean. Called it the mean of 5, something to start with. And for every for anything better by 1/2 inch, or whether it be a half meter or a half second faster, depending on the event area or the testing area, we actually gave one point to those results without exceeding the number 10. So we started with 5 and went to either 10 or 1. So the higher the number, closer to 10, we were going to figure out that it was a more significant impact on the performance, versus something closer to 1 was going to be more of a negative impact. Bar chart here shows that throughout the study, things did change. Control group C was actually held pretty steady throughout the entire for 24 weeks. There wasn't a lot of change there. They did have some increase because of getting faster and stronger. There were some increase throughout the 24 weeks of the study for the control group. What we found was very interesting was group A, the static group, in the first 12 weeks had sort of a little bit of an increase and then a decrease, and they kind of held their own throughout the first 12 weeks. Whereas group B, the dynamic group, they actually made more of a significant increase in their performance from weeks 1 to 12. Once those variables changed, and we started with the 13th week, and the group A took on the dynamic stretches, they began to improve, and the group B that took on the static stretch actually began to falter. So they actually started falling off. Somewhere along about the 16th week of testing, they sort of became back a little bit normal, back close to the same exact area. But it was overall a significant difference in in performance for the dynamic group when either or the other group, either or group, actually held those flexibility exercises prior to the training. In conclusion, we actually did figure out that the dynamic exercises, the stretching, is much better in this element, in our element, than static stretching. Static stretching didn't seem to have too much of a negative performance, a negative impact on performance, but it did. It also did not really have any impact at all, and not enough to call it a positive. The positive effects of the dynamic stretching most definitely outweighed any of the effects that the static stretching did have on the training. I'd like to thank Dr. Chandler, as well as all of our references and study articles for everything. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening.